Should Mega Evolution come back? No. Should Pokemon have ever gone 3D? Eh. Should Paradox Pokemon and Ultra Beast be part of the National Pokedex? Well, I don't know. There's a good chance you disagreed with one of my answers to those questions. That's what this video is about. Controversial Pokemon debates. The type of debates that genuinely want to make you scream at your computer as you type out a 69-paragraph essay on why you're correct. I've also invited fellow content creator Shepsky Dad along. Check out our video on his channel going over the wildest Pokemon takes. Anyways, let's start off with a big one. Mega Evolution. So Shepsky, do you think Mega Evolution should come back?
This is always such a hard question for me.
I know.
I personally love Mega Evolutions. Like, I think the designs are great. I think it was nice that it breathed some life into some more Pokemon. I think overall my answer to the question is going to be yes. So much of the love of the franchise is built off the Pokemon specifically, and it just feels kind of fucked up to offer people this amazing like design and then just take it away from them and not give them a chance to get it again. Like, that's why people were so upset back in Gen 8 when they realized the whole National Dex wasn't coming back, is that they love certain things and they want them back, and there's just some designs like this that we're just never going to get again.
Right.
So like, I know it would cause a lot of like things to happen competitively, but I think overall, if they didn't bring them back ever, then that would just be completely messed up. But what do you think?
They were incredibly overpowered. Like, the good thing about Mega Evolutions, and the reason why a lot of people wanted them to stay, was because they turned bad Pokemon into good Pokemon. Like Mawile, for example. Sableye, another good example. I know those are both Gen 3, but there's other ones as well. But the issue is that since you're only allowed to have one Mega on your team, only a very small niche of Megas were actually being used in these formats. You know, nobody could run every single Mega, even if they became good, because they were like, well, this one's better, so I gotta go for this one, you know? So one thing that I think is that it made gameplay for the main story of these games awful. Like, just downright awful, because if you had a Mega, you just sweep everything. If your opponent has a Mega, it doesn't even have good AI, so it doesn't really do anything. Like, you just use your Mega to counter their Mega.
Yeah, that's where I'd have to agree with you a bit. Like, looking back on the games as they came out, like, especially specifically X and Y, the Mega Evolution aspect didn't really feel like it was prevalent in the story. If anything, it felt like a competitive feature that was put into the main story, like kind of shoehorned in there.
Yeah.
Whereas if you like look at something like terrestrialization, which that's its own topic, but just use it here. Like, terrestrialization is something that Gen 9 felt like it was built around, and it also has an aspect to it competitively. Whereas Mega Evolution was like, it's this really cool idea, but like you said, if you had one in game, it just completely like broke everything. That, and you know, X and Y was super easy anyways. So yeah, it's a tough call, man. It's a tough call.
And X and Y almost did it right, because they gave you most of the Mega Evolution options like post game. But the one issue is that they gave you your Mega Starter and the Mega Lucario. And the starters in Lucario are already great Pokemon. Like, they should have given you, like, you know, Mega Absol or something.
Yes, big fan of Mega Absol. I would 100% agree with that.
But the designs were great. Like, Mega Charizard Y and X as a combo looked like they both look amazing. I still think it's kind of dumb that they included 2 Mega Charizards, but
you know, yeah, I mean, not in Mewtwo and Charizard are the only ones to get to. Okay, but I think there was more positive than negative, which is why I think that maybe not like a consistent feature, but in some way, shape, or form, they should definitely come back, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree that in some way, shape, or form, they should come back, but this is a controversial Pokemon debates video, so all opinions are going to differ. These are controversial debates, and I don't think they should. Maybe in a form, yes, but I don't think that they should just come back to be in the main story. I don't even think that they should really come back to being competitive, especially if they're going to, like, you know, the overpowered ones in the game still, such as the Mega Charizards and the Mega Legendaries and stuff like that. Well, to end off this section, what is your favorite designed Mega Evolution?
Oh, okay. You know, it's funny. I was just scripting something about this the other day. I think I have to mention two, because I think my personal favorite Mega Evolution is Mega Absol, which you mentioned earlier.
Mega
Which
Absol.
I don't. Otherwise, I would have to give a lot of credit to Mega Banette's design, because it's so simple, but it's just so like perfect. The zippers coming off is just like
I
really,
totally
really
agree.
smart.
Mega Banette is amazing. My opinion, Mega Alakazam is the best. And there's a story behind it too, and I'll just give you like a TLDR. It was the first Mega that I actually ever used, besides like Lucario and the Mega starters when playing through X and Y, because I played through X and Y and I didn't really touch it much after that. Mega Alakazam was actually the first Mega that I actually used in that one Roblox game, Pokemon Brick Bronze, and I don't know, I just have liked it ever since. I called him Houdini.
And that's a perfect name for him.
Just a little side note, I'm a Pokemon game developer. I make Pokemon games, Pokemon fan games, and my biggest project going on right now is called Chat Makes a Pokemon Fan Game. It's basically a project where my stream chat and my Discord server makes a Pokemon game, and I'm the one who actually develops it. This project, I hope to eventually reach the masses, and it's a great opportunity for any of you who want to come in and have a say in the Pokemon game. For example, if you want a certain NPC, or you want a certain character, or you even want your Fakemon to be in the game, there's a ton of opportunities. You can become an artist for us, you can become a musician for us, a story designer. There's a lot of things that you can do. The most popular ones are the applications. You can submit your own Fakemon to an application, which our community is going to vote whether it'll be in the game or not. And you can also submit applications to be certain characters or design certain characters and have a 100% say in how this character is going to fit inside the game. For example, you can submit an application to be a gym leader. There's a ton of opportunities for you guys, so if you want to learn more about that, just click the video right here. But I recommend you watch this video first, because this video we go into a lot of fun topics. All right, next topic. So Shepsky, what do you think about Pokemon going 3D?
Oh, you're hitting me with a hard one here.
It's like a one already hard.
I think with any sort of decision like that, switching from like the pixel art 2D style to the 3D models that we have, I think there's always going to be some good and some bad. You know, I think with 3D models, we're able to have like the world that we got in Scarlet and Violet, where you run around and you actually are interacting with Pokemon out in the wild and not just randomly coming across one in the grass. Like, I think for world building aspects, it helps a lot.
It does,
But
yeah.
if you spend a lot of time working on that when developing the game, and it comes to sacrifice the quality of the game as a whole, then that's another story. Because I would rather have like something that's really in depth, but pixel art. If you know, I don't know. I could keep going back on this. What are your initial thoughts?
Okay, so I have a few points, and I'm just gonna go through each of them, and then we'll cover them afterwards. You know, like that classic in school, that topic paragraph where you include all your points, and then the filler paragraphs go into it.
Hit me with that thesis, brother.
The thesis, that's what it's called, the thesis. It made Pokemon much more immersive. It allowed Pokemon to become more modern and perceived in a new way and bring in new fans. It made Game Freak's job harder, resulting in unpolished games. And also, it removed the charm aspect of Pokemon. It took away the room for imagination.
Yeah, I can see that for a lot of it. I think back to like certain models that we had, or certain sprites, I should say, in some of the older games, and there are certain, I think like the one I always go to is Electros in Gen 5. Like, its sprite in Gen 5 was so good. Like, it looked like this super badass eel thing, and then come, you know, X and Y, you see it, and it's just very underwhelming in its design. And I think that with like certain Pokemon, or like overall like the world as a whole, I think there is just a certain bit of like charm, like you said, that you just can't get back after switching to 3D, at least in the way that they did.
Everybody always talks about Typhlosion. I want to talk about Feraligatr. Feraligatr in the old games, especially its Gen 3 sprite, not its back sprite. We're not going to go into that.
No, that's a whole other topic.
But its front sprites in Gen 3, the Gen 2 Feraligatr in Silver, it looks so menacing. It looks like it's about to wreck your shit. The ones, and then when in 3D model, it just kind of walks around like this. It's just kind of walking around like that.
Yeah, when it comes to the 3D aspect, like, I don't feel like from a gameplay perspective, it adds a lot for me. Like, it's great to, it's been great to ride around on Miraidon and, go around and see the world as it is.
Right.
Or it's been really cool to see like some of the OG models. Like, I think about seeing a Pokemon like, I don't know, like Dragonite is in my head right now, and seeing that evolve throughout all of its like iterations. Like, it is kind of cool to see that progression. And like I said, there's so many things that wouldn't be possible without 3D. Like not that I play this, but like Pokemon Go couldn't really exist if you didn't have like 3D models and things like that. Like, I think there's so much that got brought to it because of it, but like it really just boils down to the fact of, when you take that leap, there's just certain things you're gonna have to leave behind, and they're things that I think we are nostalgic for.
And you made a really good point there with watching your Pokemon grow in actual size, because in the sprites, yeah, it grows, but it's only your imagination that actually sees it as getting bigger, but it's not actually getting that much bigger. But in the 3D models, because it's an open world, zoom out and zoom in, it's not about the actual size of what it looks like on the screen, but the size of how it fits in its environment. That does bring a lot of depth. But at the same time, like you said earlier, when it's sacrificing other game elements, such as, world exploration, if you play a 3D Pokemon game nowadays, more referring to the newer titles like Legends Arceus and the Scarlet and Violet, the overworld, yes, there's a lot to explore. I mean, it's a big open world with so much to explore, but what's really there? I mean, it's about what you'd expect. You go to a hidden area that you've never been to before that's kind of hard to get to because it's all open world, right? And what, you find a max revive on the ground? Okay, they're everywhere, you find another raid den? Okay, they're everywhere. There's not really much to put there. There's just a ton of items on the ground to the point where the items aren't even valuable anymore. And again, this might be just nostalgia speaking, but I remember in Gen 3, when you go back to an area and you had surf and you crossed like a little pond and you found a rare candy and an ether, it's like, oh wow, that's cool. There's only a so limited amount of these. But in the newer games, they just refresh everything. You can just get unlimited items, and there's rare candies everywhere. They're not even that cool. God forbid try to go on YouTube and search for all rare candy locations in Scarlet and Violet. The video would be 4 hours long. Back in Fire Red,
it would actually never end.
It would never end.
But the one thing I will say is that, like you said, like, let's leave X and Y and Sun and Moon to the side for a second, because they're kind of in that weird middle phase of when they were trying to go 3D, but we're still limited by like 3DS hardware. If you think about the grand scheme of like where Pokemon's been at so far and like how long we've had these like really in-depth quote unquote 3D games, there's been Sword and Shield, Legends Arceus, and Scarlet and Violet. Like, we're still very early on in Pokemon figuring out this whole 3D landscape for them. And don't get me wrong, for a franchise of its like caliber, it should have figured out this a little bit faster than it is. Even between looking at like Sword and Shield's wild area and seeing where Scarlet and Violet's entire regions, they're definitely making progress, and it makes me hopeful for where we're going, even if I do think we should still already be there.
I agree, it has gotten better. The Sword and Shield wild area sucks. It's so bare. Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor definitely got a lot better with that. I actually really enjoyed exploring the Crown Tundra and finding that place where you see all the Avalugs in the water. I thought that was so freaking cool when I played it, but the satisfaction doesn't repeat. If you play through it again or you open up the game again, it's like, okay, why would I want to go back there?
Yeah, I can get that. I like had the desire to play through Legends Arceus again the other day, which I've done through like twice so far since it's come out, and I like kind of wanted to play it, but since so much of the wonder of each area has worn off after the first two playthroughs, it's like, maybe I'm not that interested. Like, still love the game, but I think that...
Right, and I do want to make a point with the 2D games. In the 2D Pokemon games, the region design, I feel like the way that they designed it is that, like, every player isn't going to explore everything, In Black and White, for example, every single player isn't going to go back to the areas to use Surf and go into, like, the hidden caves and those routes, or come back, like, with the HMs, or even, like, when it's not HMs and it's just, like, a split path. Not every player is going to go through those paths because there's just so much, like, it's kind of overwhelming, and that makes the experience very unique. And I think Paldea can be seen as the same thing, but But at the same time, since it's so open, yeah, there is going to be areas that the player hasn't been to yet, but is there really anything special in those areas when you play through it the second time around? Do I think Pokemon should have ever gone 3D? Yes, just not as soon as they did.
Do I think Pokemon should have gone 3D? I also think yes, but kind of an opposite stance from you. I think the standards are pretty high for a franchise like this, and I feel like they could have done better.
Should Paradox Pokemon and Ultra Beast have stayed in the National Pokedex, or should they have been locked to their original games and just something that you could have in the original games, kind of like the totem Pokemon that you got in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon?
I have to start with saying, I made the point earlier with Mega Evolutions that if you're going to bring something into the game and then not ever have it available again, like why, like given that the franchise is centered around these creatures, why would you kind of do that to fans? But I think in this instance, I have to take a slightly different stance. Talking about Paradox Pokemon specifically, because of their whole lore being tied to Area Zero, I don't really think that it makes a lot of sense to include them in the X and Y remake we'd be getting in like however many years or whatever.
Yeah.
I think like Paradox Pokemon specifically, because of their nature in their story, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense to bring them back in future generations, although people would maybe disagree with that, which is, I guess, why this is controversial. But for Ultra Beasts, I guess I feel the same way, but it's kind of hard to say the same thing that I did with Paradox Pokemon because they're not intrinsically linked to Alola.
And we've gotten pretty used to them. We've gotten pretty used to them just like being around and, you know, coming back in the Sword and Shield DLC and being in the dens.
Yeah, and they feel like, honestly, they feel like another subcategory of legendary Pokemon to me, whereas Paradox Pokemon, because of their forms as Pokemon we already know, they kind of feel like they're in their own category. I think the minute differences in the future for somebody being able to figure out what's a regional variant versus what's a Paradox Pokemon would just make it too muddy, and I just think that it's better to maybe not bring them back. But what do you think?
I feel nearly the same way that you do, but also I want to mention something. My passion and desire for like the newer games has definitely dwindled down, and I'm definitely more interested and more passionate and have a bigger heart for the fan games and the older games, to the point where what they do in the newer games, I've been disappointed enough to where it's almost like I don't care necessarily. But if I were to have a chance to like actually go back and fix the things that has really strayed me away from these newer games and actually being involved with the events and playing them consistently, I would change it to where the Paradox Pokemon aren't going to be in the National Pokedex. Like, you can't transfer them to Pokemon Home. I don't think they should be an actual new Pokemon. But Ultra Beast, again, I've gotten so used to those, and it might be a personal preference just because I love Gen 7 and I really like the Ultra Beast. Maybe not so much at first, but after I got used to them and like the design and the lore behind them, you know, like different dimensions, I wouldn't really know what to do with that, but I wouldn't be mad if they stayed in the National Pokedex. And I'm not mad because I really like the Ultra Beasts, but from a lore standpoint, there could be millions of Ultra Beasts. There could be millions of Paradox Pokemon, and we only have access to such a few just from the lore, like what the lore gives us, and we only see a few. It doesn't really make sense to me. And I think the whole aspect on keeping Pokemon to Earth and keeping all the Pokemon you find on Earth, with, you know, those few exceptions like Deoxys and stuff like that, and, you know, the legendaries like the Space and the Time legendary Dialga and Palkia, keeping the Ultra Beast in the National Pokedex might not make sense, and it might confuse players as well that come in at a later date rather than when they came in before Gen 7 or at Gen 7.
I think that with any new thing the franchise brings, people are going to be skeptical about it at first, but then they come around to it over time. Like, I think about Black and White specifically that way, because I remember so many people being upset that, like, you know, when Black and White came out, they didn't have any of the original Pokemon, or
yeah,
you know,
they didn't
whatever
bring
other
in any of
features.
them.
And then, you know, now years down the line, it's some of the it's one of the like most highly acclaimed generations.
People found out.
So
People found out they love Crocodile, you know.
Paradox are just way too specific with their lore in Paldea for it to make sense otherwise. Having Ultra Beasts in a region that's not a Alola wouldn't make sense, but 99% of fans aren't going to care because they're just glad they can use the Ultra Beasts again. So.
Yeah. So do I think that Paradox Pokemon and Ultra Beast should be part of the National Pokedex? No. But in my opinion, it wouldn't really affect me that much if they did stay. That one is done. Clap, clap. 1 billion lions versus one of every Pokemon. This is an actual debate, and I don't know why. I don't know why this is an actual debate. I don't know why people still talk about this, but it does happen.
I'm not going to get into, like, the specifics too much. I'll probably leave that for you. All I'm going to say is that from the bits that I've seen, anybody who says lions over Pokemon, in my eyes, just a bit crazy. Here's the thing. I think people overestimate what lions are capable of, and I think people heavily underestimate what Pokemon are capable of. It's kind of a no-brainer that Pokemon just have so much at their disposal that, yeah, it's a lot of lions. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of lions, but I just don't think they can do enough.
I've been watching a lot of Dragon Ball here recently. As a kid, I was never into Dragon Ball, but Oh No Dad's Home, a lot of y'all know him. He introduced me to Dragon Ball, right? When it comes to fiction, you know, because it is fiction, it's really hard to put scientific things into fiction. For everybody who has watched Dragon Ball, tell me, do you think that Goku can kill 1 billion lions trying to attack him? Yes, he can fly and shoot beams, right? How many Pokemon can fly and shoot beams? Not even just fly, but also float too. You know, Gardevoir can use probably some sort of psychic powers to float, and then, you know, shoot thunderbolts down at the lions. If a human can kill a lion with a bullet, who's to say that Bullet Punch can't do the same thing? I mean, I know Bullet Punch isn't actual bullets, it's just punching really fast like bullets, but you get the point, you know? Pokemon attacks, Hyper Beam is probably stronger than a bullet, in my opinion.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because as soon as you said it, I decided to take a look at all of the Pokemon that are like flying in some way that can learn the move Hyper Beam. And, you know, we got just going down the list. Let's see, just who learn it by level up. So we're not even forcing them to get TMs. You've got Gyarados, Porygon, Aerodactyl, Dragonite, Porygon 2. You've got Flygon. Metagross can float probably. Rayquaza, Deoxys, you know, Porygon Z, Hydreigon. I think you get the point. There's nothing lions can do. They're not going to form into some kind of like giant Power Ranger mech thing to destroy all the Pokemon. It's not happening, dog. Also, like, think of all the steel Pokemon that lion could not do anything to. You put Registeel in front of the lions, it's sitting there, not moving.
Yeah. And it can use Explosion, is stuff like that. Explosion.
Oh, I didn't even think about Explosion. What the hell? Yeah.
Explosion would take out a good 1,000 lions.
At the very least.
At the very least, yeah, probably more. And that's not even getting into the god Pokemon like Palkia using Spatial Wind. Poof, lions don't exist anymore. Celebi can go back in time if they somehow lose. Like, there's Pokemon with IQs of over freaking... I don't know how much it is. Is it like 1 million, something like that? Alakazam's a really smart Pokemon, you know? It could team up with Celebi, be like, hey, if by some reason we do not beat these 1 billion lions, we can just use our brain power, like Doctor Strange did against Thanos, to just go back in time, or to use some sort of time travel to make sure that we do defeat them. And that's going too specific. Like, everything we said before was an automatic, yeah, Pokemon are beating the lions. But if we want to go specific, there's a lot more little itty bits that we can go into that I don't really feel like going into or writing a whole entire essay on, because it should be pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, I think at this point we're pretty good. You know, the last thing I'll say is, I mean, you know, with enough Toxics, Protect, stalling tactics, I'm sure you can get past anything.
Oh yeah. So 1 billion lions versus one of every Pokemon. Pokemon are winning, without a doubt. And that's one that I don't even feel the need to argue about, because you just need to be educated enough to know the answer.
Well, it's a lot of lions. No, I'm totally kidding. Pokemon are winning the entire time.
And once again, make sure you check out the video that me and Shepsky did on his channel. It's a great video. We cover a lot of fun stuff in that as well. Anyways, y'all, yeah. Shepsky, can you do an outro for me? I'm not good at this type of thing.
Bye.